For 7 years, Daniel Brooks loved the same woman.
Meh, and for 7 years she had no idea. Her name was Olivia Carter. Lema was a combination einded. Olivia was 22 then, carrying 3 books, a cup of coffee, and far too much stress for one person.
She was late for class. Daniel was standing outside the university library when she accidentally bumped into him. Her coffee spilled across his coat. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Daniel looked down at his coat, then at her terrified face. Instead of getting angry, he smiled. "It's okay. It's not okay. I ruined your coat. It's just a coat." She smiled nervously. "Thank you." Then she ran away. Daniel watched her disappear through the library doors. He didn't know it yet, but that tiny accident would change his life. They became friends. At first, Olivia barely noticed how often Daniel was there. When she forgot her notes, Daniel had copies. When she stayed late studying, Daniel stayed too. When she was sick, soup somehow appeared at her apartment. When she complained about being tired, he brought her coffee. And whenever Olivia asked, "Why are you always helping me?" Daniel always gave the same answer: "Because we're friends." But it was never just friendship for him. He fell in love with her slowly, quietly, completely. He memorized the little things she didn't think anyone noticed. Olivia hated thunderstorms. She loved old movies. She always ordered vanilla coffee. She cried during emotional songs but pretended she didn't. And whenever she was nervous, she played with the bracelet on her wrist. Daniel knew all of it, but he never told her how he felt, because Olivia had a boyfriend. His name was Ethan. Ethan was charming, confident, and popular. Olivia loved him. At least, Daniel believed she did. So Daniel stayed silent. One evening, Olivia found Daniel sitting alone outside the library. "You look sad." "I'm fine."
You always say that.
He smiled. "What about you?" She sat beside him. "I think Ethan and I are going to get engaged." Daniel's heart sank. But he smiled anyway. "That's great. You don't sound happy." "I am." Olivia leaned against his shoulder. "I knew you'd be happy for me." Daniel stared into the distance, always. That night he went home and cried for the first time because of her. The next morning he showed up with coffee like nothing had happened. Olivia never knew. A few months later, Ethan proposed. Olivia said yes. Daniel attended the engagement party. He smiled for photographs. He congratulated them. He even gave Olivia a small gift. Inside was a silver bookmark. She hugged him. "You're the best friend anyone could have." Daniel smiled. "You deserve to be happy." Those words became his greatest sacrifice. 2 years passed. Olivia and Ethan eventually moved to New York. Daniel stayed in Boston. They spoke less often. Then one night, Olivia called him. She was crying. Daniel immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? Ethan left. Daniel's heart broke for her. "What do you mean?" "He said he doesn't love me anymore." Daniel wanted to say it. He wanted to tell her that someone had loved her all along, that someone would never leave, that someone had waited years, but he didn't. Instead he said, "I'm here." Olivia cried harder. "Why are you always here, Daniel?" He closed his eyes. "Because you're my friend." She didn't know how much those words hurt him. Over the next few months, Daniel became her strongest support. He never pressured her, never asked for anything. He simply stayed. Eventually, Olivia healed. She started dating again. Daniel watched from a distance. Every time she met someone new, he wondered if that man would finally become the person she chose. And every time a relationship ended, Daniel was still there. 7 years passed. Daniel was now 30. Olivia was 29. They had both changed. Daniel had built a successful photography business. Olivia had become a children's book editor. One afternoon, Olivia called him. "Can you meet me?" "Of course." They met at the same coffee shop where they used to study. Olivia looked nervous. Daniel smiled. "What happened?" "I have something to tell you." Daniel's heart raced. "I'm getting married." For a second, Daniel couldn't breathe. "Oh." Olivia smiled. "His name is Michael." Daniel forced himself to smile. "I'm happy for you." Olivia reached across the table. "You always say that, because it's true." She looked at him carefully. "Daniel, what? Have you ever loved someone?" He looked down. "Yes, who?" He smiled sadly. "Someone I could never have." Olivia frowned. "Why didn't you tell her?" "Because she was happy. And you?" Daniel looked at her. "I learned to live with it." Olivia became quiet. 7 years. 7 years of hidden feelings. 7 years of birthdays remembered. 7 years of being the person she called when life became difficult. And still, she had never known. The wedding was 3 months away. Daniel agreed to be there. He even became Olivia's wedding photographer. On the day of the wedding rehearsal, Olivia found him alone outside the church. "You've been quiet lately, just tired." She stepped closer. "Daniel, you're my best friend." He smiled. "I know. I don't want anything to change between us." Daniel looked at her. "Neither do I." But inside, he knew everything had already changed. That night, Daniel went home and opened an old wooden box. Inside were 7 years of memories, a movie ticket from their first movie night, a dried flower Olivia had once given him, a photograph of them at graduation, a birthday card she had written, and dozens of small notes. Things Olivia had forgotten. Things Daniel had never forgotten. He took out one final envelope. He had written it 7 years earlier. He had never given it to her. He placed it on the table. Then he made a decision. He would finally let her go. The next morning, Daniel received a phone call. It was Olivia. "Daniel, can you come to my apartment?" He arrived 20 minutes later. Olivia opened the door with tears in her eyes. "What happened?" She looked at him. "I can't marry Michael." Daniel froze. "Why?" "Because I realized something." "What?" She took a shaky breath. "I've been trying to convince myself that I love him." Daniel didn't speak. Olivia continued. "But every time I imagine the rest of my life, there's one person I can't imagine living without." Daniel's heart began pounding. "Olivia." She stepped closer. "You." He stared at her. She cried. "I don't understand when it happened." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Maybe it happened slowly." She shook her head. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Daniel looked away. "Because you were happy." "I wasn't." "I thought you were." "For 7 years?" Daniel nodded. "For 7 years." Olivia's voice broke. "You loved me for 7 years?" Daniel finally looked at her. "I loved you every day." She covered her mouth. "Why?" He smiled through tears. "Because you were worth waiting for." Olivia cried. Then she asked the question that had haunted him for years. "Why did you never give me a chance to choose you?" Daniel had no answer, and that was the painful truth. His silence had protected her, but it had also stolen 7 years from both of them. Olivia called off the wedding, but she didn't immediately start a relationship with Daniel. She needed time. Daniel understood. For the first time, he didn't wait silently. He simply told her the truth. "I love you." And then he let her decide. Weeks passed. They began spending time together differently, not as best friends, not as two people pretending nothing had happened, but as two people finally discovering what had been hidden between them for years. One evening, they returned to the university library, the same place where they had first met. Olivia looked at him and smiled. "Do you remember the coffee?" Daniel laughed. "How could I forget?" "I ruined your coat." "You did, and you still liked me." Daniel smiled. "I loved you." She looked down. "I'm sorry it took me 7 years to notice." Daniel shook his head. "Don't apologize." "Why?" "Because I chose silence." Olivia took his hand. "Then don't be silent anymore." Daniel looked into her eyes. "I love you." She smiled. "I love you too." For the first time in 7 years, Daniel didn't have to hide what he felt. He didn't have to pretend. He didn't have to stand behind her happiness while secretly breaking inside. He simply held her hand, and Olivia finally understood something. Sometimes the deepest love isn't the loudest. Sometimes it's the person who remembers the smallest things. The person who stays when everyone else leaves. The person who never asks for anything. But there was one thing Daniel had learned. Love can survive silence, but it shouldn't have to, because sometimes the person you're waiting for is standing right beside you. And sometimes, 7 years of silence can end with 3 simple words. "I love you too."